Hello everyone, and welcome back. Topic for this segment, Libya. Well, as most of you know, if you watch my videos, you know I'm pretty much opposed to regime change, particularly these regime changes in the Middle East, which have been a disastrous failure in terms of the money that we've spent, the amount of American lives that we've lost, as well as the citizens of these countries where we conduct these regime change operations. These countries are far worse off after we attempt a regime change than they were before. Not that they're lovely places before that, but they always end up much, much worse off. Everybody, knows about Libya because of Benghazi, but when you ask people about Benghazi, that's what they think of. Well, we had 4 people got killed in Benghazi in Libya, and that was a bummer. Well, it's a much bigger story than that. And Libya has now become a complete hellhole. Prior to 2011, when we went into Libya for the regime change there, Libya was actually the wealthiest, most prosperous, most advanced country in Africa. Today, it is the most dangerous, one of the poorest, one of the most impoverished countries in Africa. It is a complete hellhole. About a third of the country is now controlled by ISIS. There are radical rebel groups of all stripes running around the country, killing people, looting, robbing. It's an absolute disaster. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, of course, are nowhere to be found. You won't see Hillary Clinton because that was really Hillary's war. She wanted that war, her and Samantha Power and Victoria Nuland and all their friends. Obama originally did not want to go into Libya, but they forced his hand. The criminal bankers had a lot to do with that as well. They applied a lot of pressure, because the real reason that we went into Libya in the first place had nothing to do with the fact that we wanted to remove a despotic dictator. The fact of the matter is, Gaddafi had given up his weapons programs. He had been working with the United States and the Europeans and other people across the world to fight ISIS because he didn't want them in Libya, no more than Saddam Hussein wanted ISIS in Iraq. But it really didn't matter, because what Gaddafi did that got him killed was that Gaddafi was working to set up, with some other African countries, an African Union, an African bloc of African countries. And his real mistake was that they decided that they were going to use their currency, which is called the dinar, and they were going to back it with gold. Well, when you put together a block of countries which do produce oil in that particular region of the world, and you create a block like that, and then you decide that you're going to sell your oil in your own currency, especially if it is a gold-backed currency, this is a direct threat to the international bankers and their fiat money system. And when you challenge the international bankers who control who pull the puppet strings in all the Western governments around the world, you are probably setting yourself up for certain death, which is exactly what happened. So what is happening in Libya now is reached a whole new level of tyranny, and it's beyond sad. It is beyond that. It's tragic. It's heart-wrenching to watch and see what's happening and what has happened to that country, because we've now entered into a new phase in Libya where they actually are now conducting open slavery, slave trading, and open markets. Because what you have is these migrants who come from other places in Africa, and they have to go through Libya to try to get onto these little boats where they then risk their lives trying to get into Europe, usually via Italy or somewhere in the Mediterranean. And they try to get into Europe. Many of them have. That's why you have this crisis going on in Europe. It has a lot to do with these migrants and people coming from Africa trying to escape the hellish nightmare that has taken place in North Africa, specifically in Libya. And what happens in the game that they're running there is that they will have these, because remember, they have to go traverse through many, many miles of desert just to get to Tripoli or Benghazi or one of the main cities, Sirte or one of those places in Libya, to get to the place they need to go to get into one of these dangerous little boats where they pile 100 people in a little boat and try to get them to Italy or somewhere. And so in this journey, what has happened now is that the people who are running these little slave trade operations, what they do is they send trucks out there into the desert and they pick these people up, leaving these people to believe that they are being helped. And they're told that they'll be given transportation to the shore line where they can get on a boat or whatever and make their way into Europe. But what actually happens to these people is that once they get into these vehicles, they're taken into Tripoli, or they're taken into Benghazi or Syria, or one of these major cities, where they are then dumped off the truck, and then they are sold into slavery. Absolutely amazing. And these people who are the sellers are primarily Arabs. So they're Arabs selling Africans into this slavery. And so what happens to these people is sometimes also, if they come from a family that they believe have some money, they'll try to hold them for ransom. So they'll be hostages being held for ransom. Or sometimes they'll just be sold into the slave trade. And if for some reason they're not capable of working, or can't work, or won't work out as a slave, or simply no one wants to buy them, none of the buyers on the slave trade there have any interest in buying them, they simply kill them. So this is Hillary's war in Libya. And you won't see Hillary Clinton going back to Libya. You won't see Tony Blair, who supported that. You won't see David Cameron. You won't see any of these EU technocrats. You won't see any American officials. You won't see any of these people get anywhere near Libya. You certainly won't see Obama going there. No, he gave he just gave a speech to the criminal bankers, who were the ones who pushed this operation, and they just paid him $400,000 for that speech. They were one of the driving forces behind the Libya invasion. So as you can see, Barack Obama cares absolutely nothing about the people in Libya, and he never did. These regime changes are never about eliminating tyranny or liberating people. It's never about any of that. This is naive to ever believe it. These are the excuses we're given because governments cannot come to you and say, well, we got to take out this dictator because there's an oil pipeline that we want to run through the country. Well, we got to take out this dictator because they're going to use a gold-backed currency to sell their oil. No, they can't come out and tell us that, so they just lie to us and tell us that there's an evil dictator that needs to be taken out, and we should get behind them to support the regime change to liberate these people. We care nothing, our government, I should say, and governments, Western governments around the world, care nothing at all about these people. And this is obvious to see because we can see what's happening in Libya. Now, I just did a video yesterday on Syria, where I explained that it appears to me that the neocons are setting Donald Trump up. I believe Donald Trump was telling the truth when he said he didn't want regime change in Syria. But right now they're setting him up, putting him in a position where he may have no choice to go along with the regime change, because they're creating a situation in Syria that will eventually have the exact same result as Iraq or Libya or worse. Because again, they really don't care how many people die, how much suffering, how much misery occurs. They don't care about the chaos. They don't care about the mass migration into Europe. They don't care about any of these things. It's about pipelines. It's about politics. It's about currencies. It's about many other things. It's never about liberating people or doing anything of a humanitarian nature or anything like that. Never is. So I just don't want you guys to forget Libya. Don't forget Libya. Don't forget, if for no other reason than to use as a prime example why we should do everything in our power to make sure that that we don't attempt a regime change in Syria, because it will end up exactly like Libya. You will end up with ISIS running the country. They will probably engage in this slavery as well. And of course, I haven't really seen this on any mainstream news, not Western mainstream news. You're seeing it on Al Jazeera. You're seeing it on RT. You're seeing it on some other news sources, alternative news sources. But the American government, the Western governments, do not want their citizens to see exactly what is going on in Libya. They don't want you to see that, and they're going to do everything to make sure that you never learn about what's going on, and that's why I am informing you that right now, you can Google this for yourself, you can watch the YouTube videos. This is not fake news. This is actually happening. They actually have an open slave trade market occurring right now in Libya. And the American government knows about this. Western European governments know about this. Everybody knows about it. It's absolutely... there's no words to describe the evil that we're talking about here. And These are the people who supposedly represent us. And it's mind-boggling to see Hillary Clinton go out and give these speeches, and to see all these Hillary Clinton bots and Hillary Clinton cultists worshiping her like she's some sort of a god. The same is true with Obama. These people out there giving speeches, still collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars, despite the fact that they have brought upon the world and brought upon people in these poor countries so much misery and suffering and death and chaos. It's hard for those of us who are normal people it's hard for us to adjust our minds to this. It's hard for us to accept this, that there could be people that are this freaking evil, that are this nasty, that are this mean, and the fact that they're never ever held accountable. And this is why I do my Towergate videos. This is why I push and push to try to hold people accountable in power, because these are not just corrupt, incompetent people. These are evil people, man. These are some very, very nasty people. And so I hope you'll share this video with everyone you know, and let them know what is actually going on in Libya. It is unbelievable. The slave trade is back. Open slave trading, open markets in Libya, with the full knowledge of the United States and Western governments. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama will never get anywhere near Libya. I can promise you that. That's all.